Let me,
in whatever time is left with me. Uh, so I think it's a very good budget in a right direction. And as the government is seeking a calibrated so-called V-shaped recovery, uh, these sort of amendments, which definitely boost the confidence of a taxpayer, were, a move in a right direction, move in a very positive direction. It is not necessary every time that the tax reforms have to come in a form of tax swaps or a lower tax rate. Uh, until recently, we were always, keen, and we were always sort of habitual of getting, recovery in terms of the economic revival that has happened in the past. We always have seen that, that has been done only through a way of tax swaps and tax benefits. But this time, what the government has done, they have boosted the confidence of a taxpayer by bringing certain level of certainty and transparency in the amendments that they have proposed. So the first on the cards is definitely the faceless tribunal concept that they have brought in, and I think moving ahead from the faceless assessments and the faceless appeals, besides the penalty appeals, which also went faceless a few days back. I think this faceless tribunal is definitely a very good move in a right direction, and that will definitely bring more transparency, more efficiency in the structure, and probably that is also going to sort of reduce the evil practices that were there. Anyways, what they have proposed in this faceless tribunal is they said that they will frame rules in context of this. The rules will be notified, but one thing that was good to be noted here was that they have talked about a dynamic jurisdiction concept. So that would mean that probably they have something in their mind that probably a SSE based in Delhi might have a case being heard by the bench sitting in Mumbai or Pune or Bangalore or elsewhere in the country. So this again is, as I said, is a very good move in the right direction. The next, the amendment that has been introduced is in context of dispute resolution committee that they have mentioned, and we have already seen the success of the Vivad se Vishwas scheme, but that was a curative measure. This measure seems to be more to be in the nature of a preventive measure, and the scheme lays down that for the income of the SSEs which are less than 50 lakhs, and the proposed variation to the income where is less than 10 lakhs, only those SSEs can avail this benefit. So again, this again will reduce litigation, and will ensure that there is a timely disposal of appeals at various forums. The third amendment that I see, again, a very sort of a good attempt, but may not achieve the purpose, is an amendment relating to advance rulings. So it is stated that the existing advance ruling, had certain difficulties because there were certain positions sitting at the top. The constitution was vacated for quite a long time, and therefore there was not efficient functioning that was taking place. So what they have done is that they have replaced the authority of advance ruling, and they have introduced a board now to take place in place of it. And this board will eventually take all the functions that the earlier authority was supposed to do. But the only problem that I see in this scheme, in this entire mechanism, is that what they are proposing, that against this advance ruling judgment or an order, even a revenue can go in appeal before the higher forums. So if that happens, I see a very less chance of the taxpayer exercising this. It eventually will be just uh, a case again which may be practically very less relevant. That is what I see. Now, going ahead to the another important amendment, which is in relation to boosting the confidence of the taxpayers and ensuring the certainties. is the reduction in the time limits of completing the proceedings under the Act. So whether you look at the proceedings under Section 143.3, 147, or whether it is an intimation under 143.1, the notice timeline for the notice to be issued under Section 143.2, all those timelines have now been significantly reduced. And the idea is just that eventually all your cases should not now be left pending for a never-ending period. They have to come to an end, and the moment they come to an end, uh, and as early as possible, this definitely attempts to boost the taxpayer confidence, because they need certainty. They need certainty at this point of time more than anything else. You have the lowest tax rates in the world. You have all the best things in India. You have the biggest consumer market apart from China, and we know that there is certain anti-China sentiments going on. So you have all the best, sort of capacities and capabilities in India. Therefore, any other tax reforms at this point of time, I think, was not required. And these reforms probably are the one in a very, very good direction. And that is why I see, the markets have also reacted to it, very positively reacted to it. So, in a nutshell, I think more of the judgments have also been overruled. There was a PILCOM Supreme Court ruling in context of Section 196D, which stated that the tax have now to be deducted at the rate of 20% and the DTA rate shall not apply. But that judgment has also now been impliedly overruled to say that effect to the DTA rate shall be given while withholding taxes. Another significant amendment is in context of the depreciation on goodwill. So while we would have always thought that that issue is now settled with a Supreme Court ruling in Smith Securities, but we never knew what was going in the legislation mind. And they have now come up and clarified that the depreciation on the goodwill shall never be given henceforth. This leaves us with a question that what about the depreciation which was already taken in the past and which remained unabsorbed? And mind you, the unabsorbed depreciation can be carried forward indefinitely. So obviously there would be certain cases where one would come up with equation where the unabsorbed depreciation has to be looked to be subsequently set off against the income henceforth. So my answer to it is that the unabsorbed depreciation is covered under Section 32 subsection 2. Depreciation is covered under Section 32 subsection 1. So there is no amendment in subsection 2 to Section 32. Therefore, for that reason, I believe that unabsorbed depreciation shall be allowed to be set off subsequently. As again, this is a substantive amendment under Section 32(1). It has to be read as if it is prospective in nature, unless there is a specific mention of any retrospective effect to be given. So this again is sort of a situation which settles its dispute and buries it deep into the soil now, that the depreciation on goodwill can never be given. And I think it's a very right judgment also, because if you look at the Pink Book, the memorandum, it gives you the entire background, the entire chain of sections wherein the legislature has clearly attempted to bring it forth that if you look at the schematic interpretation of the various provisions, then you would also agree that the eventual deduction in context of depreciation on goodwill was never warranted. So I appreciate personally this amendment. The another amendment again is seeking to solve one dispute but raises another, is in context of slump sale. So what recently happened was there was sort of a tool or a design or a mechanism that the taxpayer were indulging into, wherein there was one favorable ruling until recently, which said that a slump sale is different from a slump exchange. Therefore, it is not transfer, and therefore Section 50B shall not be applied in such cases. Uh, the law has been amended to say that slump sale would also now include the cases of slump exchanges, and therefore the tax has to be paid thereon. But that is one side of it. The law, to my understanding, has again failed as to how would you value it, because even if it is a slump exchange and there is a non-cash transaction involved, you will have to eventually value it. Only then you can tax it. So valuation mechanism has not yet been prescribed. uh, the another significant amendment is in context of the startups extension that has been given under section that has been given till 31st March 2022 under section 80 IAC, uh, is again definitely going to help the startups. Another important amendment relates to employees' contribution in context of their the employer used to deduct it and was to deposit in the fiduciary capacity the employee's contribution towards PF. Now they have very clearly stated that if you don't deposit within the due date mentioned in those specific acts, then the deduction shall be denied to you. And I think Section 43B, to the best of my understanding, ever stated that it talks about the employee's contribution. It always mentioned, and it always was specifically clear that it was talking about employer's contribution only. But the courts, and I think uh, almost in many of the cases, they had given this benefit even to the contribution that made from the employee's salary, and where the employee was deducting and depositing it. They have given that 43B benefit to the employee's deduction as well, but now they have clearly clarified it. The another interlinking question here is that they say that in section 43B, they clearly mention to say that it was it will never be deemed to have been ever a part of 43B. If you look at the explanation, they say that it would now be deemed as if it was never a part of it. And in the memorandum, it said that uh, the amendment shall apply from 1st April 21-22. So the question which arises here is that whether this amendment is retrospective or prospective. Uh, See, my understanding and my view on this is that because this is a substantive law, and therefore a substantive law has always to be given a prospective effect unless there is a specific mention that it has to be applied retrospectively. So therefore, if you read this section as on today, which never existed in the past, I think it is only prospective in nature. And for the past periods, the benefit of the favorable rulings from various high courts can be taken. Uh, the another small amendment in context of equalization levy of 1.0, which was introduced in 2016, is that they have further clarified that where the payments, which are made as royalty or FTS under the DTA or read with the income tax provisions, and if they are taxed accordingly, then there shall be no further burden of equalization levy being levied on it. Uh, the another small amendment is again relating to the fact that there will be no TDS on the dividends paid to the FPIs. So I think if you sum up and if you sort of look at all these amendments, you really would not find anything significant here. But yes, the idea, as I said, was to bring some certainty and in some sense the faster resolution to your disputes, so that as a businessman, one may focus only on the core business and not the taxation aspects of it, and tax shall never be a hindrance in sort of doing business in India. And that ways, I see this budget in a very good direction. I leave it here because I think the allotted time has